Hello there, YouTubers. Well, I guess somehow the frequency of my video creation has increased recently. I suppose it's you know we can attribute such such um, such phenomenon to a variety of factors and elements. I reckon more often than not, you can pretty much gauge or come to an reasonable estimation as to how my moods and mindsets and as well as emotions fluctuate and tend to get tilted over the past several days to weeks and so on. I just hate the fact that I still stutter. That I can't express myself so eloquently, so that I can't articulate my thoughts and ideas so efficiently. Unlike most YouTubers as we speak. I though I don't actually have a a gauge or a measurement or and an adequate apparatus to quantify how how articulate or how eloquent one YouTuber should be. Well, generally speaking. But I guess that of course certainly qualifies for another rather lengthy video per se. So in this video, I just like to talk about why I would rather prefer to stay a loner, to be without others, in particular other human individuals to socialize with, to to have interactions with, and why while you can I suppose by this time multitude of alternative titles must have come to your mind, such as why I hate people, why I hate being around why I hate being around people, why people equals shit, or why people why I think people are shit, why I think people are stupid, why I just don't enjoy socializing, etc. I'm sure that you can come up with a lot more alternative titles to the title I am about to name this video of mine, in a much more creative fashion. Since I don't consider myself someone particularly wise or intelligent, but instead I just have a lot of time with myself, and therefore I tend to take a lot of time you know to ponder myself, to be with my own thoughts as a natural, as a rather natural response to my current shitty and loser and underdog circumstance. So that's in my point of view, the reason why I tend to create videos at a much more higher frequency, and or at a much higher rate of production, than the than the than than most YouTubers who kind of share a lot of stats with me, while generally speaking, and yet have a lot of have a lot more views and subscribers than I do. While if you happen to pay attention, if you happen to pay some more attention to the ratio between the number of subscribers and the number of videos that have been made publicly available to the general viewers on YouTube and on other video hosting platforms like BitChute, Rumble, MGTOW TV, etc. So I don't particularly enjoy hanging out with people or socializing with people, because whenever I have people or other individuals around me, it makes freely expressing myself so difficult and so impeding, so awkward. First of all, that can such principle can apply to to scenarios, to scenarios in which you meet up with your your family members, even but most of the time peripheral family members or relatives, like your uncles or cousins, aunts, and some other relatives. First of all, you will have to, whenever you are around them or with them, you will have to take a lot of time. It takes a lot of processing power of your brain, to ponder, what to say, so that you don't offend them inadvertently, or by accident. And on the other hand, at my age, I just pretty much well, have become too red pilled, or even too black pilled, to be completely honest, with people, even roughly, at my age, face to face. I'll have to whenever I meet, or I see a person, or another human individual face to face. In particular, not in the Western world, but in Asia, say in China, or in Japan, or in any other Asian countries or regions. Well, generally speaking, say you tend to face a lot more pressure, and and some other types of intimidating vibe. I'm not sure if I'm using the the most appropriate terms or words, but you get the picture. It's you have to think about what to review and what to conceal. Whenever you meet up with people face to face here in Asia, say in countries or regions like China, or Japan, or Singapore, or Korea, and blah blah blah. People tend to judge you, by your physical appearance, by your clothing, by by the way you speak, and by the and blah blah blah, by the the frequency, or the the likelihood of you socializing and interacting with other people / with other human individuals. And like I mentioned before in my previous videos, nothing comes without a price or a string attached to it. Even if some sort of say help, or an olive branch, that coming from another person may seem like a random act of kindness, but in fact, even that that comes from another family member or relative, can still have a string attached to it. Can still have that says, aka in other words, they still kind of either consciously or subconsciously tend to expect something in return, either tangible or intangible, and that well, unfortunately, that makes my aunt, who often comes to my grandma's residence and cooks me dinner, and do the a variety of household chores. That makes her no that makes her no exception either, unfortunately. So you know, I guess, you know, ever since my grandma kicked her bucket, I have you know lost the last person with whom I can be completely open and honest, you know, and you know, and with whom I can, you know, speak and talk about hearts and minds completely open, you know. Um, Everyone else, you know, even with you guys, you know, no, I'd say, you know, even to my Patreon members, to my existing, to my fellow most beloved patrons, you know, I can only be like at most 90%, 90 to 95% honest and open, you know, you know, for the rest, you know, I'll have to either lie or just say, you know, for the sake of confidentiality and privacy, I can't disclose anything more than I already have. And sadly, you know, that's just, you know, the way that the entire humanity works. Even, you know, honestly speaking, you know, I just, you know, don't, you know, I don't, you know, particularly enjoy making cold calls or speaking to strangers or speaking to to people, you know, as naturally as I pose myself or disguise myself to be, even on YouTube. Yes, you can say, you know, I do so, you know, in the form of an act, you know, just to earn some, you know, some views, some you know, even some you know, some potential opportunities, you know, to earn a bit of money, you know, just to ease my suffering, you know, to make myself, you know, to enable myself to, you know, to have more spare cash, blah blah blah. Though I'm not saying, you know, there aren't, you know, people or other, you know, MGTOWs or men that, you know, that, you know, that can't, you know, switch freely between these two modes and, you know, still live a happy life. No, yes, well, they are, you know, well, as far as I can tell, say, you know, Sandman, you know, Sandman and some other dudes, you know, whom I nowadays, you know, tend to categorize as ghost MGTOWs. You know, that says, you know, they have, you know, they can, you know, earn, you know, a sufficient or more than a sufficient amount of money, you know, to you know, to self-sustain, to be self-sufficient, and, you know, they have somehow attained a level of spiritual enlightenment, you know, high enough that, you know, they don't need, you know, to seek external validation or you know, or positive affirmations from other human individuals, and yet they still feel content and happy with what they do, with what they are doing, you know, you know, as a way of making a living, and as a way of keeping themselves entertained and content, you know. And you know, they, you know, and that makes, you know, their loner, you know, their lifestyle of a loner, possibly also plus a lifestyle of doomer, you know, completely viable, and you know, and completely profitable, you know, in a way that you know, they can do, you know, they can turn their hobbies, they can turn their you know, their you know, you know, their way, you know, their way of most preferred living into a business, you know. That says, you know, they earn a living. They tend to earn a living by doing what they love, by doing what they enjoy doing, and that, you know, in my humble opinion, counts as the, you know, one of the ultimate definition, you know, as having attained or having achieved, you know, the highest level of success / happiness, you know, since, you know, they don't actually have to make themselves uncomfortable to make a living, you know, they don't have to do so, you know, say, you know, by bending their own wills, by bending their, you know, their preferences, you know, their own you know, their own mindset, you know, to external pressure, to other human individuals, you know, they but on the contrary, they can, you know, more or less, you know, bend the, you know, the harsh reality to their will, to their advantage, to their satisfaction, you know. And you know, they are, you know, well, probably like Uncle Grant Cardone says, you know, they are, you know, yes, there is no shortage of success. You know, there is no shortage of you know, of people, you know, who can, you know, more or less bend their reality to their favor, to their satisfaction. You know, that says, you know, they can do pretty much whatever they feel pleased doing. You know, they don't have to kind of, you know, do any sort of lip service or kiss ass of others. You know, they just do whatever the shite they feel like doing, you know, and say whatever the shite they feel like saying, without, you know, having to be that considerate. You know, they can pretty much freely express themselves. They can, and you know, they do it so well in a way that they don't stutter at all. They don't have to think twice or think thrice about what they are about to say, you know. So you know, it's I don't know, but yeah, it's so exhausting and it's so frustrating to be with people, to be around people. Um, you know, and you know, more often than not, in my point of view, you know, the more I the more I lean onto others to get validation and or a plus and slash or positive affirmations, you know, the more disappointed and frustrated I become with them, you know, men and women alike, you know. I'm not, you know, like, you know, I'm saying that, you know, men are always superior, as in contrast to women. But you know, roughly and rather, you know, generally speaking, you know, we, you know, that says, you know, you and me, you know, make no exception to such rule, to such, you know, mechanism of social dynamics, or you know, the entire humanity, you know, the way that the entire humanity you know, works and exists, and in one or, you know, more or less in a way thrive to this day. And you know why, you know, why then why else do you reckon humans can, you know, can become so prevalent, so pervasive in numbers, and you know, and how else do you reckon you know, they are, you know, they have been, there have been so many loners and doomers, and those who just, you know, take illicit drugs to cope with the harsh reality, and blah blah blah. So yes, and there are still a bunch of, you know, a bunch of things, you know, I just, you know, feel too awkward and too confrontational in nature, you know, to just say or ask in front of, you know, in front of my relatives, you know, in front of, you know, those with whom I share some blood ties, you know. Maybe I'm still kind of hesitating whether I should you know, tell that to you guys or not. Yeah, in fact, you know, somehow, you know, I couldn't, you know, I can't find, you know, one of the silver coins, you know, my old man, you know, well, bought me, you know, when I was still a kid. You know, I suspect it had something to do with either my aunt or my, you know, or the people, you know, she brought in, you know, some weeks ago, you know, to fix the aircon. Well, still, you know, I guess it won't hurt, you know, to say this out aloud to you guys on YouTube, since you know she won't be able to, you know, well, she won't um you know, get the chance to see this video anyways, since you know she doesn't know how to circumvent the Great Firewall of China to you know, to access YouTube. Well, but you know, well, you get the picture, and you know there are some, you know, there are some other, you know, some other scenarios or circumstances, you know, in which you just don't feel, you know, you just don't find being with people, being with other people, being with other human individuals so enjoyable, or so relaxing, so unwinding, and you know, it just adds more burdens, more liabilities to your to you, you know, both physically speaking and mentally speaking. You know, it adds way too many daunting tasks and weights, you know, to our already daunting and exhausting lives. You know, well, at least in my case, you know, I just don't see you know, I just don't see one single strand, one tiny bit of benefits, you know, of of socializing, of seeking the opportunities to socialize with others, because you know, more or less, more often than not, they always want something out of the so-called friendship. You know, more, you know. But I suppose, you know, that can still vary bit by bit, you know, depending on different human individuals, since you know, everyone, you know, seems quite different, you know, one way or another, more or less. Some people, they just, you know, say, you know, they can switch you know, they can switch between these two modes, you know, say, you know, one mode being a loner, the other being a highly efficient, highly effective people person. You know, but you know, it's just that, you know, the more I, you know, grow, you know, the older I grow, you know, the more I tend to realize that people equal shit, people equal shite, people equal crap, people equal feces, people people are just shite, people are just shit. I just, you know, can't stop ranting and venting about how much, you know, how you know, how much shite I have had enough of people. I have had enough of other human individuals. You know, yeah, I suppose, I have run out of words, to to articulate my frustrations with people and with this shitty world and with my pathetic and my pathetic and saddening life. Some, more or less, I have to admit that I kind of nowadays, envy Chairman Mao. I envy, some assholes, some, some villains that, I can't help but start to envy, the way they live, the freedom they enjoy. They can just do whatever they want. They can just say whatever they feel like saying, without giving a damn about the repercussions or the consequences. They just don't care. But I just Jesus, I just I still have at least one thing or two that I feel a must to care about, such as my YouTube channel, such as my survival, such as the problem, as to whether I could die a peaceful and painless death or not when my time comes. Anyway, guys, it's just, life is exhausting, and being around people just makes it more exhausting, way more exhausting. And whenever you somehow manage to reach a level of of enlightenment, or uplifting, both both in terms of your financials, both in terms of your spiritual enlightenment. Consider yourself rather successful and fortunate already, in which you don't have to bow yourselves or to kowtow yourselves, to others, to the reality. You just do whatever that makes you happy. You just say whatever that makes you feel more relieved, more at peace. Then consider yourself fairly achieved, fairly competent and successful, or already. I begin to realize that I have vastly, overestimated myself in terms of in terms of spiritual enlightenment, in terms of the experiences I managed to gather about the philosophy of life and living my shitty life itself. So yeah, well, judging, by the fact that I can't even, say whatever I feel like saying to my aunt, despite the fact that we spent so much time, together, and despite the fact that how close we get to one another, as if I became her adopted son and she became my adopted mom. And some other shite, it's just that, I suppose I have talked enough in this video. I've talked enough in this filming session, since my my throat has already gotten so demoisturized and sore. So yes, I suppose it's time for me to end this filming session. And yes, I know it's like I've been talking for more than 40 minutes in a single filming session. That's quite long, quite lengthy, to say the least. Still, I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let you guys know, of any further developments, if I have the chance. And yeah, to conclude this filming session by a verse from the Bible. What is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou visitest him? Amen. Cheers. Until next time, if God willing. Au revoir. Bye.